I am Spider-Man. No, of course not. I am joking around, but I am doing a New Yorker's review of Spider-Man No Way Home, which just came out December 2021. The first 15 minutes will be spoiler free. Spoiler free. After that, we will discuss spoilers. I'll discuss a little bit of light spoilers and then we'll go full on to heavy spoilers for a perspective of Spider-Man No Way Home. From a New Yorker's perspective, I grew up in New York City. I'm from Queens, just like Spider-Man. The comic book was written and created here in New York City, in Manhattan, at the offices of Marvel Comics, which is one of the most important companies in pop culture history, along with Disney or Warner Brothers. There's a few companies out there that have had a massive impact on world culture, especially here in the Western world, where comic book heroes are known everywhere. Many people all around the world, may you go to my own home country of Puerto Rico or in the countryside of Ireland or England, to the lakes of beautiful Italy, to the villages of Greece, you will hear of people knowing about Spider-Man. Of course, with all the other superheroes that the Marvel Studios have done. But the reason I'm doing this on the channel about travel and cities is because Spider-Man is integral to New York City. New York is part of the character for Spider-Man, especially with comic books and few of the movies. And we're going to see if this movie actually does integrate New York City well or doesn't. So let me know where you're watching from. And again, it is a spoiler-free section. I'm going to put a sign up here. No spoilers right up there. And then when I change that, there will be spoilers. So fair warning, everyone. So I went to the Alamo Drafthouse, which is right behind me. It's at 28 Liberty Street in Lower Manhattan. I absolutely love this theater, and they actually gave me a Spider-Man mask. The back is actually a menu. So this place actually gives custom menus. So they had a Green Goblin pizza. I did not have the Green Goblin pizza, nor the Green Goblin loaded fries. They really went all out with the Green Goblinness. But I indeed have a good fried chicken sandwich, which they have. It is amazing. It had actually a pizza as well. I was very hungry. So, Spider-Man No Way Home. People are asking me, please no spoilers in the comments. Any moderators, please hide spoilers. Spoilers will not be tolerated in the comments. And if you watch this movie afterwards, please refrain from discussing spoilers in the comments afterwards. Give it about a week. Please don't discuss spoilers in the comments in a week. So that said, Spider-Man No Way Home. Immediate reactions. This movie had so much hype around it. For people who don't know context, Spider-Man is actually the third film in this series of Marvel Cinematic Universe films. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all the superheroes kind of share the same type of cinematic universe. That means there's crossovers in all these films. There's already about 23, 24 of them, and Spider-Man is among them. There has been two other iterations of Spider-Man before. There was the Tobey Maguire one, which I grew up with. I remember really well seeing that first trailer of Spider-Man, which actually involved the Twin Towers, and they had to remove that trailer because unfortunately September 11th happened shortly thereafter. And then the second version was Andrew Garfield starring as Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man. And there was two films in that series. And now we have Tom Holland, who's actually a Brit, just like Andrew Garfield as well, but he's playing a Queenser, raised in Forest Hills, at least the original version. This Tom Holland version, he's more so living in Sunnyside, Queens. I liked the movie. I really liked the movie. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of twists and turns, and the pacing of the film was breakneck. That was the quickest 2 hours and 40 minutes of my life. It went really, really fast, and I did not quite expect it to be that fast. However, because it went so fast and relied on stories that weren't quite contained within the film itself, I felt like it was more an epic TV episode rather than a film. So I really liked it, but I did not feel like I saw a film. I feel like I saw an excellent episode of television. Not because of necessarily the quality. It just didn't feel like its own story. It felt like it was part of a larger story. And it's hard to discuss this without discussing any spoilers. But that was my quick reaction out of the theater. So I fell in love. I gotta see it again. Sometimes with these films, they're so paced so fast and so quick that first viewing is a bit overwhelming, and it feels like I'm not getting to know the characters as well. But after watching a second time or a third time, it kind of changes. This has happened to me before with Dark Knight. I actually really did not like The Dark Knight when I first saw it. I thought it was really overwhelming, jam-packed, too much packed in the film. But I saw it the second time and the third time and actually really fell in love with it deeply. So I'm not sure if this film will be the same. I did not come out of the theater as in love as I did with Spider-Man Far From Home. But lo and behold, if you are a Marvel superhero fan, or if you like superhero movies, period, or if you like Spider-Man, I think you would love this movie. And I think you will really enjoy it. So I highly do recommend it for any superhero fans. If you are not a superhero fan, I don't think this will convince you. I think you're better off maybe watching the original Spider-Man films, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire. So that leads into New York. What I really like about Marvel superheroes, if people don't know, there are two different types, two main comic book companies in the history of comics here in the United States of America that were based here in New York originally. Then one of them kind of moved out west. There's DC, and they've gone through different names throughout their history, but now we all know as DC Comics, which is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, and many, many other heroes. But those are the most famous ones. And then you have Marvel. And Marvel was one of the main writers and creators of Marvel was Stan Lee. Many people know him, of course, very famous guy, famous since those Marvel superheroes exploded onto pop culture in the 1960s. And that's Spider-Man, that's Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Iron Man, Daredevil, X-Men, Blade, but not Blade Runner. Ellen says Blade Runner, Blade, not Blade Runner. And many, 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 many others. There's actually, I think I can list out more Marvel superheroes than I can list out DC superheroes, because I think the DC ones just have those super famous ones, Superman and Batman, where literally the entire world knows about them. But here in Marvel, you have such a much more wider cast of superheroes. So what I love about Marvel versus DC is DC Comics, Superman and Batman, let's talk about those two specifically. They take place in fictional worlds. They're not set in a real city. Most superheroes thrive in cities. They were written in cities, specifically here in New York. They were written here. And it's because there's a lot of dense amount of people. There is crime. There is many levels of society here, from of course the underworld of crime to white collar crime to celebrities to films to the everyday worker. There's so much here in any given city. So these superhero stories thrive in cities, unlike the myths of yore from ancient Greece or ancient Norse mythology. They don't depend on cities, those stories, but superheroes do. And superheroes are almost like our modern myths. Some of them are literally quite directly based on the myths, like Thor. But that said, Batman takes place in Gotham, which is kind of an analog of the worst parts of New York, with a little bit of Chicago thrown in. And then you have Metropolis, which is kind of Chicago meets San Francisco, maybe with a little bit of New York. They're not real cities. They don't have real neighborhoods. I don't think they even mention neighborhoods in those movies or in those comic books, because the stories are much bigger than just the area. Jane says it's a child's movie. It's definitely a movie that is for kids, definitely. Yeah. Kids definitely will enjoy this film. Would I call it a child's movie? No, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoying these films, I think, is... I love them, personally. I would speak directly from my own experience. I love them. They're stories that transcend age, in my opinion. You don't need to be a child to enjoy them. There are movies out there and stories that are targeted specifically for children. But this is a type of story that is more than that. It's like saying Westerns is only for dudes. Well, a lot of people enjoy their Westerns. These stories are akin to the stories of Hercules or Achilles, the Greek myths, or the Norse myths, or the tales of Robin Hood in England. I think they are the modern versions of those stories. And while you do tell those stories to kids, they have many layers that go beyond what you would just tell to a kid. The layers kind of, sometimes they get much more violent or more real, like the myth of Hercules. We tell the kids' version, which is Hercules very strong and kind of just beats people up, beats monsters up, but there's actually a much more darker side to Hercules, which is very, you wouldn't tell a kid. Hercules, in essence, Hercules commits murder of his own family. You wouldn't tell that to a kid. Of course, superheroes usually don't get that dark, but what I'm saying is that superheroes, there's more to them than just a simple story like the Three Little Bears. It's more than that. It's still a story. It's still just fun and escapism, but it's more than that. I would say it's very good escapism, and I would say they are the best type of stories. They're the stories that stick with you in a much more deeper level, in a much more effusive level. It spreads way more than a melodrama. And while melodramas are great, or period history epics are great, some of them do transcend the generation, like a Lawrence of Arabia. Some do. But these stories, as I mentioned many times already, they're myths. They strike you on a much more broader level. Anyone around the world can enjoy the story of Spider-Man even if you've never been in New York. So Superman takes place in Metropolis and Batman takes place in Gotham, but the Marvel superheroes take place in New York. They take place in a real place. They take place in real neighborhoods. They're here in New York City. And that's what I love about them. For example, Daredevil, one of the superheroes, he's a blind superhero. He wears a red costume. His terrain is Hell's Kitchen. And part of Daredevil's character was that he was raised Irish. He was Irish Catholic. He was raised Catholic. And that's part of his story as well. And he's fighting crime. So that grounds that story in a real place. Fantastic Four, mostly in Midtown Manhattan. They actually have a huge building in the fictional world of the Marvel Universe, in the comics and the movie. Oh, well, not yet the movies, but in the comics, they have a building. And most of the terrain is in Midtown Manhattan. And then you have Luke Cage, for example, who's a Harlem superhero. And then you have superheroes all in different neighborhoods all around New York City. You have Doctor Strange, who obviously, due to the trailers, you can obviously tell is in this film. His territory is Greenwich Village. And Greenwich Village is specifically chosen because his character is involved in the occult. And for people who don't know too much about Greenwich Village, I've shown them many times, it used to be a very bohemian neighborhood. Kind of lost that in recent time, but it used to be very bohemian. There was a lot of occultists that literally lived in Greenwich Village, quite literally. Some very famous occultists have lived in Greenwich Village. So it's no coincidence that Doctor Strange is in Greenwich Village. And the list goes on for many, many others. And that's the thing I love about Marvel superheroes. They're grounded in real New York, real neighborhoods. And some superheroes, of course, are in different parts of the world because Marvel has superheroes in Britain, they have in LA and Los Angeles, they have San Francisco, they have a few others. But the New York ones are the most famous ones. And that said, Spider-Man is, the interesting thing about Spider-Man as opposed to just any other superhero like Batman or Superman was that he was just a normal teenage kid, which at that time was when he was developed in the early 1960s, he was just most superheroes were big, strong men. And actually were drawn very similar to actual bodybuilders that were famous at the time. So they're very big, burly men. But Spider-Man was the first lanky, bespectacled kid that was relatable to the actual readers of the comic books, which at that time was mostly little boys, kids that were maybe between the ages of 6 to 17, maybe a little bit older. And it related directly to them. And I think what makes Spider-Man a great superhero is because he's from a real city that is New York. He's from a real neighborhood, which is Forest Hills, Queens. In these films, they kind of changed it to Sunnyside, but still a real Queens neighborhood. And he fights crime here in New York City, depending on the large buildings to web around. So I think if you remove Spider-Man from New York, it's very tricky. It doesn't translate well. It's so ingrained with the city. What I don't like about these series of films, the Tom Holland ones, is I love Tom Holland and I love the connection with the rest of the Marvel Universe. It's truly amazing. It's really, really wonderful. And I keep rewatching Far From Home because I love the travel aspect of it. But what I don't like about these films is that they don't integrate New York that well. New York is usually most of the scenes are actually filmed in Atlanta. So it doesn't capture New York as well as the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. So and especially this one, the entire film, this is not really a spoiler. It takes place in New York. I don't think this would be considered a spoiler. Obviously, it's not travel like the second one. So it takes place in New York, but it doesn't really feel like New York. It barely shows New York. And I'm a little bit bummed by that. Of course, I'm a little bit bummed by that from a New Yorker's perspective, because I would love the films to show more of New York. So comparing it directly to Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi ones, I have a newfound appreciation for them, because they actually do show New York, and I kind of really capture it almost in a timeless way. It's not a New York of the early 2000s or late 90s. The New York feels more like those old Hollywood films. And they capture the city so well. And I think that's part of the magic of those films. That I'm a bit saddened that this one doesn't quite capture that magic of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. But still a blast. So I'll answer any spoiler-free questions. Let me know. So yes, I would recommend this film. If you don't like superhero films, really haven't watched them, don't know anything about Spider-Man, then I would recommend watching Spider-Man 1, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire from 2002. My opinion, that's a far better film on its own. This one, there's a lot more that you need to know in order to enjoy this film. Which by no means doesn't mean that's bad. It just means that it is more of an episode than a film. Do you like Spider-Man No Way Home more than Spider-Man 3, says Lawrence? That is an excellent question. I think, yes, this film is more effective. Spider-Man No Way Home is far more of a fun time than Spider-Man 3. Though, as I mentioned, Spider-Man 3 is in that Raimi universe, which captures New York so well. And Spider-Man 3 is kind of, it's bad in a very good way. There's scenes in that film that they're so bad that they're really great. The dancing scene in Spider-Man 3, it's just amazing. I like it. Inspire Life says, how is the acting in the movie? It's amazing. Tom Holland is a immensely talented actor. It's interesting, because we will be getting to the spoilers section in just a few minutes. And I will answer that question even further. But the acting is amazing. Tom Holland did a great job. Benedict Cumberbatch did a great job. So I will tell you this, another New York thing that I really like is, spoiler-free again, they do heavily involve Long Island City. So it was nice to see Long Island City there. And they do show a little bit more of the Sancto Sanctorum. Might be mispronouncing it. Sancto Sanctorum. Sancto Sanctorum. And that is the headquarters of Doctor Strange in Greenwich Village. And they actually show more of it. And that was really awesome to see. So he has like a huge mansion in the middle of New York, and it's really badass. There's not a real building there, but there's similar buildings in this area of Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, that I really do enjoy. So it was nice to see that. Otherwise, and then they showed a major landmark. Actually, appears in the film. They showed the Statue of Liberty with a big adjustment to it. And I really like that they had a fight at the Statue of Liberty. The thing is, the fight wasn't shot in a way that made me feel like I was still watching the Statue of Liberty. I kind of like... I did kind of lost sense that I was in the Statue of Liberty because a lot of the fight scenes were filmed. It was very character focused. So I don't think the director or the writers were so concerned about showing the city. And of course, this is not a film about it's not a film about New York like Annie Hall or Manhattan, there's many other great films out there that it's more about the city. Let me know those films. But as I mentioned before, I think what makes Spider-Man such a great character is that he's grounded in the city. So I think if they would have shown more of the area, I think it would have felt a little bit more powerful. I have 16 kids and I watch a lot of kids movies. So some people here are insisting that they're kids movies. They are indeed great for kids, but they're not just kids movies. Ghostbusters 1 equals a great New York City movie. Yes, that is a great New York City movie. Yes. And someone asked, which is your favorite Spider-Man? Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man. Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man, but I will tell you more. I will really tell you more in the spoiler section. But I like Tom. I think Tom is the one that I feel more related to, just on a human level. I found Tobey's Spider-Man to be very awkward and nebbish is a good word. Peter Parker was always meant to be nebbish, but they made him extra nebbish. Let me know great synonyms for nebbish. It's a hard word to pronounce. Let us know other great words for nebbish. Andrew Garfield, I fell asleep during that Amazing Spider-Man, so I barely remember Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But ask me that again in spoiler section. Marvel is the best, but DC is making a huge push in 2022. Hey, yeah, indeed. All right, let me see if I got any more spoiler-free questions, and then I'll go. I thought the crab character was great. Again, no spoilers, please, everyone, in the comments. Of course, please don't tell anyone about the huge crab in the film. There is no crab, but please don't say actual spoilers. Please, please. We will hide the comment. Blah, blah, blah says, I will watch. Let me know if you have any questions about Spider-Man No Way Home in terms of the city. Is this my favorite of the trilogy? No, my favorite is still Far From Home. Even though it doesn't take place in New York City, it actually shows Venice really cool. It's really cool seeing those other cities depicted in the superhero film. How does this Spider-Man rate against the original Spider-Man movies? I think in terms of, as I mentioned, in terms of the city, I think Spider-Man 2 is probably the best depiction of New York City from a Spider-Man film. In terms of great films, I think Spider-Man 2 will probably, Spider-Man 1 and 2 be remembered for far longer. But my personal favorite is Spider-Man Far From Home. That's the one I'll keep on watching over and over again. How do they make webs? Well, it's already known in the Tom Holland ones that he uses web shooters. What do you eat during the movie? I ate fried chicken sandwich at Alamo Drafthouse is the movie theater. They have a great one. It has some fries, great. And then I actually ate a margarita pizza. And the pizza actually was really, really good. Of course, you don't expect restaurant quality pizza or classic New York City pizza, but it was a really good casual pizza. Nebbish means wimpy. Not wimpy. Nebbish is a bit of a more unique word than wimpy. Nebbish is a bit more unique. Are you really in New York? How do you know this is not a green screen? I will prove it to you. How was Zendaya? She was amazing. Zendaya is a talented actress. I can't walk any further because then I'll hit the green screen. But yeah, this is real. No, I'm joking. This is just rendered in Unreal Engine 5. Ladies and gentlemen. Ariel actually lives in LA. Last I think Peter was supposed to be from Forest Hills. So Peter actually is, in this version, it is quite definitive that he is from Sunnyside. He is from Sunnyside. Yeah, I think they pretty much definitively made it Sunnyside because a lot of the shots indicate that it was Sunnyside. And I think the actual apartment building is in Sunnyside and the, or Long Island City, kind of right in the border. And yeah, Sunnyside, pretty much. So no, he's not Forest Hills in this version of the films. Green screen, yeah. Ariel, we know you ate pizza. You have pizza sauce all over your coat. I do not have pizza sauce all over my coat, George. Can I buy some, says Kelly. Yeah, you can. I'm leaving for the spoiler section, says Joe. Yeah, no worries, everyone. Okay, I am going to the spoiler section, everyone. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Moderators, if you can just say that there's spoilers every once in a while, every like few minutes, just say this is the spoiler section, something like that. Please do give people a warning. This is the spoiler section. I like your coat. Obviously, you don't have cats. No, I don't have cats. Yes. How many leaving for spoilers? No worries. I won't take it personally. I will be discussing spoilers. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. So that means I will be talking about plot elements of the film. I'll be talking about the surprise twists and turns. I'll discuss light spoilers next 5 minutes, and then I'll just go all out. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Actually, one thing I wanted to discuss non-spoilers is they actually show a fight scene in another cool area of New York City. Actually, I'll discuss that in spoilers. Spoilers, 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 everyone. I will be switching. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. As indicated up above, we are in spoiler territory now. If you're still here and don't want to know about the film, you can go. Would spoilers ruin the film? Only if you are a hardcore Marvel / superhero fan, then yes. If you're not, I don't think it will really make a difference for many of you. I won't tell you the ending. I'll just discuss light spoilers first. I assume no Howard the Duck appearance. I am saddened to tell you, Ambrose, and everyone else out there, Howard the Duck has not yet returned back to the MCU. Not yet. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. Linda says I will doubt I will see them. That's okay. Yeah, you can stay if you want. I will be happy to answer any questions, even if you don't intend on seeing the film. Just ask me any questions related to the film or New York's relationship to the film. Catherine says, spoiler, does Spider-Man have a girlfriend? Yes, that is evident in number 2. He has a girlfriend named MJ. Now, MJ is Mary Jane Watson in the original comic and the Sam Raimi films. There is no MJ in the Andrew Garfield films. MJ stands for Michelle Jones. So this MJ is technically not the same redheaded MJ from The Girl Next Door as the other one. Yeah. Sometimes I read the book, then watch the film, says Helen. Oh, cool, Helen. I I doubt I will see this one. You want me to go, says Wendy. I would recommend it, yeah. It's a fun time. Even if you haven't watched the previous films, I think you'll have a fun time if you're just curious as to what happens. Let's see. So far, no one left, says Lawrence. Uh-oh. Everyone, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I'm going very slow, just so people know. I can see the spider logo showing through the under your jacket. I'm actually wearing Green Goblin colors. So I'm not wearing Spidey colors. I'm wearing Green Goblin colors. So, I think Peter was such a romantic, says Helen. Yeah, especially in the second film. Yes, you do see his romantic side. Wendy says, oh my God, I'm staying. DC says we could keep a secret. JD is staying. Is there any club scene with him dancing? No, no dancing in this film, unfortunately. Okay, everyone, so it's spoiler review of Spider-Man Far From Home. So, that said, even though this film doesn't quite capture as much as the magic of, or the magic. There has to be another better word, I think. But there is a certain kind of legendary or mythical view of New York that people know in their heads. You might have never been in New York, but you kind of have that vision of New York. The Sam Raimi ones really captured that well. But what I like about this one is they actually show different places in this one. Spider-Man actually has there's a new apartment for Spider-Man, and that is in Long Island City, and that was awesome to see. And there is a major fight scene in the George Washington Bridge, and that is really awesome. Why doesn't Peter Parker get old, says Nicholas. Most of Peter Parker's stories are him pretty young. I think the oldest he's gotten is 30 years old, 30 something. Yeah, I don't think they've shown too many old Peter Parkers. But I will tell you in spoilers. This is the spoiler section, so I'll wait for it. I'll tell you my thoughts a little bit before I say anything more. That is a real spoiler. The charisma of New York, says MDN. Yeah, MDN, that's a good word for the charisma of New York. Peter Parker drinks gray smoothie, says Catherine. Indeed, he does. Probably he does, or eats a lot of pizza. I think it's the pizza. Is the fella playing Spider-Man going to play Fred Astaire in another film? He is. Tom Holland is a very talented dancer. ¿Eres romántico? No, aquí no hay tanto romance. There's not too much romance. No hay tanto romance en esta película. Hay un poquito, pero no tanto como la película vieja de los 2000. So there's not too much romance as much as the Sam Raimi films that have more romance involved. And I think The Amazing Spider-Man as well. My ears are closed. Accompany clips for this section. I don't have any clips. I wouldn't provide clips either. Testing Ariel, what was the name of the crab? Hell is referring to the non-existent crab villain. There is no crab villain. I am afraid to disappoint you. Okay, so I mentioned that this film feels more like a television episode. I mentioned that there's a major fight scene in the George Washington Bridge, which was actually really interesting. Actually, it was going towards the George Washington Bridge, so it wasn't actually quite on it. It was just slightly before. But it was really cool to see that part of New York featured in the film, which is very rare in general in most action movies. You don't see the George Washington. And then beyond that, the Statue of Liberty, there's a major addition to the Statue of Liberty where has a huge Captain America shield, which I get in the context of the story that the Avengers saved the world and they want to pay homage to Captain America. But that sounds rather blasphemous to change the Statue of Liberty to include a massive shield. So I found that very, very blasphemous as a New Yorker to see that on film. Hella says he looked like a crab to me. No duck, no crab, just spiders. Yeah, just spiders. Did he go to popular restaurants in New York? No. That's the thing I did not like too much about this film. As a New Yorker, actually, as I mentioned, I really enjoyed the film. I had a blast, and it was one of the fastest 2 hours and 40 minutes of my life. It really went fast. Really well done film, paced well. I had a blast. But as a New Yorker, someone who wants to see more of this beautiful city on film, and just cities in general, I want to see more films capture the beauty, the essence of a city. No, he doesn't actually go to any restaurants. There's one place featured in the film that is, as a New Yorker, I also really love. MJ, Michelle Jones, played by Zendaya, works at Peter Pan Donuts in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. It's a real donut shop. They actually use the same name, so it was still Peter Pan. In the comic books, MJ worked as a waitress, I think, in some versions. I think the original Mary Jane worked in a diner because she was trying to be an actress. But this one, MJ, Michelle Jones, works at Peter Pan Donuts, which is actually one of the best donut shops in New York City. So it was really cool seeing Peter Pan Donuts. Really, really cool. Well, you think he'd take MJ for a nice dinner date, says Catherine. Oh, a cheapskate. Yeah, there was no like dinner scenes. The film did not breathe. The film was just a breakneck rush of excitement and action, and it did not breathe. I think films, especially longer films, and this is ironic because I just made a documentary which is paced extremely quickly, and it also goes at breakneck speed. But I think if you're doing something short, then yeah, you can have something really fast and really action-packed. Or if you're doing like a TV episode, you can do that. But with a film, especially a film that long, 2 hours and 40 minutes, I want some breathing room. Because that breathing room, like those romantic scenes or those melodramatic scenes in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films where Peter Parker and MJ are on the verge of breaking up, they might feel slow in the moment, but those scenes stick with you. Or the scenes of Peter Parker delivering pizza. It's a bit silly, but they do stick with you. There's breathing room. And I think that's what makes the best films. Because it might not be 100% necessary to see Peter Parker having a dinner with the main love interest, MJ in this case, or a friend like Ned in this case as well. But this doesn't seem necessary, but I think it is necessary in order to have a film stick with you for a very, very long, long time. Because it's not a thriller, it's a character-driven story. So I think it's very necessary to have more character moments in these films. Avengers Endgame did that way better than this film. Spider-Man Far From Home did this way better than this version. It was just, this is why I say it's a TV episode. It just felt super quick. It felt like an action-packed TV episode. And that said, so as I mentioned, it's hard to enjoy this film, I think, as a standalone. The other reason it lends itself to feeling more like a TV episode is because there's a lot of meta storytelling. So there's two types of storytelling. There's storytelling that is the story within the universe. And then there's a story that is about other stories or about the making of, or more than just the confines of the actual universe you're talking about. And this Spider-Man film does rely a lot on meta storytelling. So you have to know of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to enjoy this film because the villains do come back from those universes. They're not just the same actors, they're literally the same characters from those films. So part of the premise of this film is that Spider-Man brings all these villains from other universes into his own through some mistake in a magical spell that Doctor Strange was casting in order to save Peter Parker's life in many respects. And the fact that it relied on characters from other places was fun as a viewer of these films, but I end up realizing, yeah, a lot of people are going to be confused by this. And this movie is completely 100% necessarily linked to all those other movies. It's hard to enjoy this film on its own. Buy the Book says, love these reviews, keep them coming. Thank you so much, Buy the Book. Motion, thank you so much for the hearts. I'm glad that people are enjoying these reviews. Again, please don't put spoilers in the comments because people might tune in and I don't want them to get too spoiled. Does he wear the suit well? He does wear the suit well, yeah. New York City is maybe the most destroyed city in the history of filmmaking. It is G. Gonzalez, it is. So did he find his way home? No. Well, kind of. No, he didn't. But metaphorically, not so literally. I think they missed with the new Spider-Man movie. It wasn't great, says Max. If you want the movie to breathe, watch Eternals. Lawrence, yes. I personally really love The Eternals. It was a great film. As a history lover as well, The Eternals is great because it does involve world history. Some things I actually even shown myself. Like the ancient Greek myths and the actual places where people talked about them. It was really cool movie. That is an amazing epic film. But The Eternals missed one thing. And of course that's a different film, so we're not going to discuss that in full. But I think The Eternals was great because it had breathing room, but it missed the sense of wonder, which the original Spider-Man trilogy had. Was it overwhelmed with special effects? I did not feel overwhelmed at all. I did not feel overwhelmed in the least bit. I just felt like there was no breathing room. I just felt like I didn't hang out with the characters. How would you feel if Infinity War was the last Marvel film? I want them to continue. I love these Marvel films. I think there's always room for improvement. I think Marvel should not get into the trap of making solely meta stories. And this is why I don't like Hawkeye. Well, I do love Hawkeye, but I think Hawkeye is getting something wrong. They're relying too much on meta stories. So Hawkeye had a big reveal for a major villain. And unfortunately, that relied to be surprised and excited about this reveal relied you to know about this other villain from another thing. And I think in terms of the arts of storytelling, in terms of fiction, in terms of films, I get it if something could be connected to something else, but there has to be a certain amount of story that has to work on its own. So if you're going to connect it with another film, another series of characters, I think you do need to, sure you can do that, but I think you need to justify it within the realm of that universe and within the realms of that story. And you have to make sure that even if someone has never seen any of the other Spider-Man films, it has to work. Those reveals, or you have to bring people in for those reveals, so they also feel the wonder and the awe that someone else who actually already knows those films does. And this film did not do that well. Think about this, it's like having a conversation with a few people, right? You're having a conversation with friends. You're hanging out with 2 or 3 friends. Actually, you're hanging out with like 4 or 5 friends. Imagine that 2 of your friends, you're having this conversation with 5 friends, 2 of these friends, you say this hilarious inside joke. Something happened in your near past, and all of you laugh, and you guys get into it and kind of say, "Oh, you remember that, and then this happened, and that happened. Oh, this was so hilarious!" And then you say something, an inside joke, and you guys start uproariously laughing. It kind of sucks for the other 2 people. Imagine being those 2 other people, listening to these 3 people get into some stuff that happened while they were not there. I've been in those conversations, and it does suck when people don't bring you in. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. It sucks when people don't bring you into that type of conversation. But I think the best type of conversationalists or party hosts are the ones that, yes, you can talk about inside joke, but you bring people in. Maybe not, you don't necessarily have to explain something. It's like explaining a joke. You don't need to do it necessarily, but you can bring people in. I know how to do this pretty damn well, I think. I love bringing people in and bring context to an inside joke if I'm having a conversation with multiple people. And I love to bring that person inside into the joke. And I think that's a really great way of conversing. And I think film is the same way, especially these type of films which rely on a lot more mythos. Like a great myth story of Hercules, you can tell the story of Hercules and it still stands on its own. You don't need to know about Hades, you don't need to know about Zeus, you don't need to know about all these other characters, but they can enhance the entire experience. So that said, I do not know the comment, I haven't seen the Spider-Man movies. So yeah, they bring in villains from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which is a different series of movies with different actors, made by a different director, even made by a different studio. They bring in 2 villains from there, they bring in 3 villains from there, and they bring 2 more villains from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, which is a different series of film. So just imagine if we had the same Dr. No from Sean Connery's Bond come into Casino Royale. And Dr. No from Sean Connery would come in, and whatever villain from Roger Moore would come in to a new James Bond. And imagine that's just normal in this James Bond story. It would be a bit weird. It would be a bit weird. Hey, DC left a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Yes, I've been there. DC says, I think you are a great storyteller. Oh, thank you so much. You should invent a new superhero. We could all write you a film. I do already want to make a superhero film. I do intend on making a Marvel superhero film. I have a particular superhero in mind. And it will involve New York. So yes, I do have a very particular superhero in mind. And it is not one that's super popular. And I think it's on purpose. I think it's such a weird character that has to be brought onto film. Stay tuned. Okay, that said, everyone, now I will say for these last 10 minutes, the big spoilers. I'm gonna put this sign even bigger. This text. Big spoilers. Tune out if you really want to at least be surprised somewhat by the film. Or if you have friends or family watching nearby, big spoilers here. Big, 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 big spoilers. Moderators, write it down in the comments, please. Someone write it in the comments. Thank you, Catherine. Write it down in the comments. A few other people write it down in the comments also on Facebook. Big, huge, massive, gigantic, mind-bending spoilers. Huge, huge, massive, gigantic spoilers. It will potentially ruin the film if you are a Marvel fan. It might actually improve the film experience, but if you want to be surprised, do not watch any further. Big, big spoilers, and please do not repeat it in the comments what I'm about to say. Don't write in the comments afterwards, please. I don't think the Marvel movies are for the adults, says Kurihara. I disagree, Kurihara. Free spoiled fruit, says Gary. Massive, massive spoilers, ladies and gentlemen. Don't tease us, says Catherine. Leave now or forever hold your peace. I'm sorry if people are coming in here. I'm gonna put this in the middle of the screen, actually, just so people know. Oh, huge. I'm gonna put this massive. There we go. So no one can deny. Ariel, are you engaged? No, I'm not engaged. I'm just wearing a middle ring finger. I'm not engaged. It would be this finger if I were engaged. This one. I'm not an engaged man. I'm just wearing the middle ring finger. Lauren says he's single, ladies. Indeed he is. Kimmy, welcome. Kimmy, this is my neighbors. We're having dinner in Palm Springs and we're watching you live. Again, everyone, I'm spoiling Spider-Man Far From Home. This is not a normal movie, normal walk. So, I'm spoiling Spider-Man Far From Home. All right, 10 seconds to tell you everything. And it will answer the questions that were asked earlier before about favorites. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the rumors are true. You might be wondering, what the hell are you talking about? Some of you know exactly what I mean. All the rumors are true. There's not just the villains from Spider-Man Sam Raimi. Big spoilers, ladies and gentlemen, leave now. Not just those villains. There's not just Electro, Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, the Lizard, and Sandman. Not just those 5 guys. The other 2 Spider-Men are in this film. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield themselves are in the film. And I already expected this. Being a fan, there was a lot of talk about it. So it was becoming fairly obvious that this was going to be the case. But I still had a little bit of doubt in my mind. This is not going to happen. They're going to disappoint all of us. Andrew Garfield indeed has been lying through his teeth for about a few months, because he's been promoting Tick, Tick, Boom, which is directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, about a musical theater writer called Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent. And every time he's done these interviews for what's supposed to be for that film, they ask him if he's in Spider-Man No Way Home, and he's indeed in Spider-Man No Way Home. So, talking about the previous Spider-Man movies and talking about the meta storytelling, this is a moment that has excited me as a fan of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. The original Spider-Man came out when I was like in 8th grade, and I was so hyped, so excited. It was, don't tell this to anyone, it was one of the films that I actually illegally downloaded. I don't do that anymore. I do not condone it. I hope I already repented for such an act. Um, I hope I already did that, but yes, I did. I was one of those kids that went a little bit on the wild side. I was a wild kid, and I illegally downloaded films when I was little. And I downloaded it while I was still in theaters. And I remember seeing this very kind of pixelated version of Spider-Man. And I was so hyped. It was such a film that I just really deeply enjoyed as a little kid. I remember when I was 6 years old, and I really liked seeing the comic books. And it was such a cool experience seeing them come back. I don't have too much of a connection with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, but something about this film and something about his performance. And a few people left super chats. Everyone, thank you so much for the super chats. DC left super chats. Thank you so much, DC, for all the 3 super chats. This film has shown me how great of an actor Andrew Garfield is. It was weird. I did not expect Andrew Garfield to steal the scenes. He stole the scenes. He stole the scenes for every scene he was in. There was something. That man is an amazing actor, and I was blown away every time I saw him on the screen. They shared the screen together for about a little bit longer, about 40 minutes, a little bit less, about 30 minutes. Their storyline was in the film, and it was really great seeing all of them 3 together. But Tobey Maguire felt a little bit awkward being in the film. It was just a weird seeing Tobey Maguire, and he has aged quite significantly since then. So he was obviously a lot older, and I don't think they gave him a haircut that was way too short. So I think it didn't do him any favors. Then they gave him like a leather jacket, made him look even older. So I think they didn't do quite the best job in costume for Tobey. But something about Tobey, it just felt weird. Tobey next to these 2 great actors, Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield, just changed the context of Spider-Man for me. Like, he worked so well in those Sam Raimi films, but next to these 2 other great actors, like really talented thespians, in my opinion, especially Andrew, and Tom Holland is a powerhouse actor. I don't think he's had time to shine fully yet, but he's a powerhouse actor. I felt bad for Tobey. I was like, oh, Tobey kind of, he is nebbish compared to these 2 amazing actors. And something about Andrew Garfield's physicality, the way he moves in the scenes, he embodies Spider-Man. He has this physicality that Tom Holland has a little bit, but Andrew's more, like Andrew's not just acting with his eyes, which is very powerful. Tom Holland does that very well. Many actors do that well, like Leonardo DiCaprio. But he acts with his entire body, which Tobey doesn't at all, really. And that's why I really love, and that was really cool. I was just blown away seeing him next to these other 2 Spider-Men. He has a star role in Uncharted. So ultimately, I loved the film, and it was really awesome seeing those 2 guys come together and all share the same screen. As a fan of these series of films, as a comic book fan, as a fan of the Marvel Universe, really fun seeing them all together. I wish there was more New York involved, but that's okay. I would recommend this as a Marvel fan. I would recommend this if you love superhero films. If you are looking for something that takes place in New York or shows more of the city, this is not the best bet. I would recommend for Marvel, I think the best series that has shown the city thus far in Marvel has been the Daredevil series from Netflix. I think that has done the best job in showing New York City. Hawkeye is pretty damn close as well. Info says Batman dies in the movie. Maybe he does. He seems too grown compared to the other Peter Parkers. Yeah, I mean, if he had a beard, I think it would have worked way better if they would have had him had a beard. Rather than try to make him look the same with the same haircut, they should have just had him with a beard, a little bit longer hair. I think it would have worked a lot better for Toby. Do I make a cameo in the film? Asks Fila. No, I wish. That'd be cool. Catherine says he slayed it. Indeed he did. New man on the block, yes. Does CGI's Toby's midriff? I did not see Toby with a belly or anything. He seemed in pretty good shape. I'm not sending anything until I get a Christmas card, says Helen. Helen, you gotta be a mega urbanist to get a Christmas card, but I do appreciate you tuning in. Do you like 500 Days of Summer? I do. That's why I was originally excited for the Amazing Spider-Man, but it made me fall asleep. Geez, Ariel, when you lean forward to talk, I actually put my ear closer to the screen, says Catherine. Wait, really? You do? Oh. All right. Cool. Good to know. I remember Tom Holland filmed the scene from Far From Home in Bushwick. He did, yeah. Far From Home did not show too much of New York City, actually. But it was really great. How old is Toby now? I'm not sure. He should be in his mid-40s, but Spider-Man is always associated with being a pretty young guy, so it was a bit odd seeing a much older Spider-Man. Was Toby bullying anyone? No, he was not bullying anyone. What did he die from? I won't tell you exactly what happens in the end, but they do come back, and I'll say that. You would make a great Quiet Man movie, says Helen. Oh, I don't know what that means. Quiet Man. Well, this is a super review. I'm so glad everyone enjoyed it. The comics featured middle-aged Spider-Man, so why not in the films? Oh, great to hear, Lawrence. I'm not too well versed in the comic books, so glad to hear that there's some stories of Peter in middle age, but I think he's mostly in his up to his 30s. Let me know what is a great comic book storyline of a middle-aged Peter Parker. I'm so curious. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Those were the huge spoilers. Actually, I had not much critical to say, just aside from Andrew Garfield stole the scenes. That man is a super talented actor, and I really do appreciate him even more. Do they do their own stunts? There are stunts in there. I don't think Toby does too many stunts. There is a little bit of a joke about him having back problems. So someone asked me, what's my favorite Spider-Man? You know, Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man, but goddamn, Andrew Garfield, that man is magic in some way. And it's a shame he did not get to do more Spider-Man films. Toby's gray hair and beard aged him. They did not have him with the beard. I would have not mind if they kept the gray hair and had a beard. But they dyed his hair brown to make him look like he used to look. And he was clean shaven. I think they should have just owned up to his age. And I think he would have looked more appropriate. He could actually have been a sort of Uncle Ben figure to Tom Holland's Spider-Man if they would just let him with his graying hair like he has and a beard. I think it would have looked a lot better. Toby needs a man bun. I do not think. Catherine, I would disagree with you there. So if anyone has any last remaining questions, feel free to ask. Was there anything hinted with another Daredevil season? So big spoilers once again. I'll just put this marker again. Big spoilers, yes. Daredevil does appear in the film, played by the same actor, Charlie Cox. So it was really cool. Tomades dice, Ariel es un gran comunicador. Gracias, Tomades. Lo agradezco. Qué bien que te encanta la manera que yo comunico. Tomades says, you're a great communicator. Thank you so much. Susan says, now I know something that the hubs don't. he didn't want to know anything about the movie. Okay, yeah, please don't tell him. Ocean says, I'm here. Andrew is dark. There was a moment where Andrew started weeping in the film. And wow. It was only like 10 seconds. And it was a gut punch in the best way possible. I'm not even into Spider-Man, and this has been fun, says JD. I'm so glad. But was there anything hinting to another season? No. I don't. I'm not too optimistic that the Netflix series is going to be part of the canon of the Marvel Universe. Lawrence, no, it doesn't appear that they are considered canon. The characters will be played by the same actors, but it doesn't appear that they'll be canon. 2 thumbs up? Yeah, I would give it 2 thumbs up. I do give it 2 thumbs up. I'm a bit hesitant to rave about the film, but I had a blast. It was a fun ride. It was a really, really fun ride. It's not that I have high expectations, but I just want the film to be a great film on its own. I don't want a film to be a glorified TV episode. Was it overhyped? It wasn't overhyped. I think the hype was appropriate. But the hype was all about the meta storytelling, and it wasn't about the film itself. The film, it doesn't stand on its own. Far From Home can stand on its own. You don't really need to know too much about Iron Man. You kind of get the gist in the context of the film. This film does not stand on its own. It could have, but it doesn't. And that's a shame. But not all films have to fulfill that purpose. They don't. I mean, I think that's the beauty of the Marvel films. Like Endgame. Endgame is completely directly related to Infinity War. I would say they work together as 2 films that you can watch together. And you still don't really need to know everything else, kind of. So not every film has to be a standalone, but I think the best ones are. That's why I really love Black Panther. I love the Eternals that came out recently. I loved the original Avengers. And I think those are the top films for me in the Marvel Universe. Black Panther, Avengers Endgame, and Infinity War together, and the Eternals. Ron, nice to see you here. What's your next movie review? I don't know yet. If there's another history or city-related movie review, then I will do it. If I travel to a city and there happens to be a movie that comes out of that city, then I will do it. So stay tuned. If we have a film about New York while I'm still here in New York, which I don't think there is any coming out very soon, I will be going. And when I visit London, I will do, if there's a London movie that comes out, I will do a movie review on London. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know, do you enjoy these movie reviews? Would you like to see more movie reviews from either a New Yorker's perspective, a history lover's perspective, and or a traveler's perspective? I will stick to those topics because this is not a movie channel, but I will stick to those topics. So if you want to see movie reviews from those perspectives, let me know. And I will do it anytime a new film comes out that's directly related to Urbanist. The Matrix Resurrections, unfortunately, does not relate anything to Urbanist. Though I am going to see it. I might talk about it in my own personal channels. I won't do a video on it because it's not related to New York. And not in the least bit. Or anything travel or history related. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of people are enjoying it. Yes, enjoy it much. Love your input. I'm going to show you where I was sitting, just so you know the space. Again, please don't say spoilers in the comments. House of Gucci, you know, I'm not really in Italy right now, so I wouldn't review House of Gucci, but maybe one day in the future, if I visit a city and there's a film that comes out of that city, I'll be there. Everyone, please don't say any spoilers in the films, in the comments, I mean. either on Facebook or on YouTube, please don't do that. Wait a few weeks. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. I might see you tomorrow for a mini live video around 8-ish p.m. People like a 5 to 10 minute video. I can't promise exactly what time, but there might be a chance I'll do a live video inside a Broadway theater to show you a little bit. Have a great day. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, do whatever a spider can. Oh, there he is. There is the Spider-Man.